Hey, Drew, man.
Yo, Brad.
So South Carolina got rid of Muschamp this week.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you saw that.
I saw something on Twitter.
Yeah. About 15 some odd $million to go away.
Yeah.
Can't blame him. So Will Muschamp now, by the way, is getting about $22 million or so from schools paying him not to coach. All right.
Correct.
I still don't think he's caught up to Charlie Weiss.
No.
You know, Early, sometimes them football boosters will provide your family with a car or even house if you keep nice and quiet about it. They gonna do what now?
Welcome to the place where if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying is a way of life.
Just keep it down home, cuz.
Where degenerate gamblers can congregate in peace.
Money, yeah. Money, yeah.
Where screaming at 20-year-old kids on a TV is just another Saturday.
Every fiber in your bone, and you take it and you beat the piss out of them. I'm talking about beat the piss out of them. Let's go whip their ass. Let's go.
Where game days don't end until the Rainbow Warriors say so.
It hits the upright. Oh my God! It hits the left upright. It hits the left upright.
They are the bagmen that Danny Sheridan never found.
I lived at him with a strong-ass offer.
And it all comes to you with a splash of bourbon on the side. Woo! This is the Friends of the Program podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to yet another episode of the Friends of the Program podcast. I'm Brad. He is Lord Drew. That's official, by the way. He is true Lord of Glencoe in Scotland. It's
Thank you.
What happens.
Thank you to all my my peasants below. Your lord is here.
Powers of the internet bestow upon you. As we get set to talk about a kind of a boring week of college football last week. Wasn't a whole lot on. Couple of decent games, but otherwise, not a really good slate. But should be a pretty interesting week this coming week to talk about a few good games. Still not great, to be quite honest with you. There's not a whole lot out there, but there's one big one happening in Columbus, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but Indiana is involved, of all things, in college football as far as big games go.
It's the first time that I've ever cared about Indiana in November, mainly because I just don't care about college basketball in November. But now I care about their football team.
And I love college basketball in November because you get all these great cross-country matchups with 1 versus 2, 1 versus 4 every year. It's amazing. Yeah. And we'll start talking college basketball soon. Quite frankly, it's hard to talk about it right now because the schedules still aren't out in the weeks. This season's supposed to start next week.
I was about to say, as the mic flag will let you know, I'm fired up for Auburn and Gonzaga that might be playing. It's supposed to be?
Michigan State just released their non-conference schedule the other day, and they play a game in 8 days.
I will tell you this. So a little behind the stone wall, the curtain, if you will. I use a program called Plex to record all Auburn events to put into my library because I'm a nerd. Don't judge me. And so I saw next Thursday and Friday that I have 2 basketball games recording. And I went, oh, that's neat. Let's see what old Auburn basketball game. Let's see if I get a Charles Barkley game or something like that. No. It's St. Joe's and Auburn playing in 2020. So I went to the Auburn website to confirm the schedule. No, Auburn's first basketball game is against UCF, according to the Auburn Athletics website.
No, it's supposed to be St. Joe's. It's some new
But it is supposed to be supposed to be St. Joe's. They just haven't gotten to
originally Auburn was playing in a tournament in Orlando with Michigan State, and I think Gonzaga was there and somebody else. It was crazy. But
Kansas, I think, was also jumbled around in there.
It was going to be an insane tournament down there in Orlando, but oh well, that'll have to wait till next year. Anyway, as we get sidetracked, let's get the show going. Don't forget, you can always follow us on Twitter at FOT Podcast. Same for Instagram at FOT Podcast. Like us on YouTube by searching for Friends of the Program. And, of course, you can always subscribe via Spotify and iTunes as well. Drew, what you got in hand tonight, my friend?
Tonight, I am tasting, finally, something that a listener, reader of mine, we did a little whiskey trade, a little bourbon trade. So I am trying the Balcones, the pot still bourbon. Very nice, very smooth. Big fan of this. And according to some Texas folks, it's very affordable.
Yeah, it's
so-
around the corner from the house here. It's like $30.
Yeah.
as
So
far as,
it came very recommended from my reader over at college in Magnolia, and it is fantastic. It is a winner today.
I have gone beer tonight.
Ooh.
Let me get to my camera here. This is a local brewery, Blue Owl Brewing. So they actually specialize in sours, and I love sour beers.
Yeah, you're a sour guy.
So this is sour cherry stout. So it's a stout
Okay.
dark beer, but with a sour cherry kick on the back end, which is, think of it almost like a chocolate covered cherry.
Oh, wow.
Nice way to think of it. It's good. I like it. I found it at the store the other day. I've had their brand before, but I've never had the actual this beer. I've had other iterations of sours that they have on tap, but this is pretty solid. I like it.
Ah, very nice. Very nice.
All right, so let's look back real quick at last week. We won't spend too much time there because, quite frankly, there wasn't a whole lot to go on. I think, for me, we got to start at the big house because the wheels are coming off right now at Michigan.
Can I do my weekly question to you?
Sure.
Who gets fired first, Jim Harbaugh or Tom Herman?
I still think it's Tom Herman.
Okay. Because
I mean,
I wish I would have thrown Will Muschamp in there. Because that would have been fun.
That would have been a slam dunk, though.
Yeah, but that was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I think. What the hell's happening up there? Because Wisconsin, after not playing for 3 weeks, just came in and thumped Michigan around.
And let me just say, your Lord made some
yeah.
money on that game.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of this because Michigan's been recruiting better under Harbaugh.
Absolutely.
People always think Michigan powerhouse football team. They've never been a huge recruiting powerhouse because they've never put that big of an emphasis like Ohio State did when Urban Meyer got there and he brought that SEC recruiting mentality up to Ohio State.
Taking players after they've already been committed.
Yeah, that was a very Big Ten thing, like not even a decade ago, where if a guy was committed, you backed off.
Oh yeah, he was done.
That you just didn't do it. And so they've been getting better talent, but they look horribly coached right now. And you're talking about a guy on the sidelines who was one drive away from winning the damn Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This decade.
Yeah. Just a few years ago. Just dive into and here's the thing that befuddles me. I know a lot has been made of Dan Brown in the past. After I know I can go back to our show after the Minnesota-Michigan game, where Dan Brown's defense looked like world beaters, which, don't get me wrong, they should have against this Minnesota team because they ain't rowing nothing. But if you dive into the stats, this is, again, a Wisconsin team that's been off for 3 weeks. 468 yards of total offense to Michigan's 219. You're looking at 127 passing yards to Michigan's 127, which means, by math, 341 yards rushing for Wisconsin, 47 yards rushing for Michigan in the big house.
And that's 2 weeks in a row they have not run the ball at all.
It was also the largest halftime deficit since the big house opened. For those of you scoring at home, 1929.
Ooh.
It was 35-0.
Yeah. So I think Harbaugh is going to be
28-0.
I think Harbaugh is going to be on a short lease next year. I think he gets one more year. Now, if they lose 50-0 to Ohio State, all bets are off. Just at that point, all bets are off.
Okay.
But I think he gets one more year due to the COVID excuse. I don't know how well that'll go over with the fan base up there. Okay. This is the thing I always tell people, though. And I've gotten into many arguments. I used to live in Michigan, folks. It's not like I'm talking out my butt.
No.
I've gotten into many arguments with Big Ten fans because they're like, "Oh no, we care about our game." I'm like, "Yeah, you care. You go to games. That's great.
That's fine."
But the next day, you're also cheering for the Lions, or you're cheering for the Browns, or something else. It's not life or death. If he was in the SEC, he'd be gone tomorrow. Like, no questions asked. The guy would be gone tomorrow. I think because Tom Herman's in Austin, which, yes, a lot of people here watch the Cowboys. A lot of people watch Houston and everything like that. But Texas football is still a little bit different down here.
You've got a point there.
And
I can agree with that.
Well, and you have an in-state rival who you may not play anymore, but who's having a hell of a season.
That's also true. If Michigan State, if this is Mark D'Antonio's old school Michigan State,
yeah, I mean A&M, you're not playing. Texas and A&M aren't playing anymore, which is sad,
correct,
and they should
which is
be.
sad. They should be.
But
Get over
A&M's having a
yourself.
very good football season, and they made a seemingly decent hire with Jimbo Fisher. I'm still skeptical. I want to see it.
I need to see multiple years of this.
I need to see it more than once.
Warrant $70 million guaranteed.
Yeah,
this is coming
75.
from a guy who's 75, and this is coming from a guy who's paying Gus Malzahn guaranteed money, basically.
Yeah, but they're having a good year.
Mm-hmm. They're
Could be a great.
I
wouldn't go great yet.
I wouldn't go great
Could
yet.
be great.
I agree with you.
If they win out, go 9-1, and they only lost at Bama.
If the season ended today, I go great year. But since there's still games on the slate, good year. So
I'm
far.
still, and this isn't the
I
homer in
agree.
me. I'm still not convinced they come into Auburn and win. I'm not convinced on that yet.
I will hold judgment until after this weekend, after I see Auburn play.
Fair, but I think that puts extra pressure on on Herman down here, because the fan base here, Michigan fans, while having this outsized expectation of who they are, also kind of understand that they're not going to win the national title every year. And they haven't even been to the Big Ten championship yet, right?
Yeah.
So Texas fans have this outsized thought that they should be in the hunt every year because they're Texas. And the recruiting base is here in Texas that they have to work with. And so that's why I think Herman's on a bit more of a hot seat.
I can agree with you, but as from the 40,000 feet seat, like I am, at what point do you, as a Texas fan and a Michigan fan, because I put them in the same boat right now, where the guy that you have isn't the guy. Yeah. But from the 40,000 foot seat, when do you finally go, maybe it's us? And not the coach. Maybe we're doing something fundamentally wrong. I think Florida State's figuring that out as well. ESPN did a great article. If you haven't had a chance to read that, I'll send it to you. But they did a great article on the last 6 years of Florida State football and how it's gotten to this point. But at what point, I guess my ultimate question is, at what point do you finally go as a program, as a booster, as a friend of the program, it's not the coach. We're doing something fundamentally wrong to affect this outcome that we're getting.
Well, and for Michigan, I would say, one, they're not aggressive enough on the recruiting trail. Mm-hmm. That's just number one. Yeah. Number two, it's this, we have the big house. We were great. We have the most wins all time. Like, that matters because wins don't always equal championships. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're not winning titles. That's just who I am. You could have they called him Lloyd Carr for a reason, because it had 2 L's. You'd go 11-2. Congratulations. You're not winning a damn title going 11-2. Nope. You might win a Big Ten championship.
Might win a division title.
Yeah. Congrats.
Congrats.
You're not winning the big thing, which is what you're striving for if you're Michigan. And Texas has the same problem. And I think the argument for Texas and going against Herman here, his path is easier than Harbaugh. He doesn't have Ohio State in the way. He doesn't have, and we're going to get to Penn State here in a second, but in most years, he doesn't have Penn State in the way, right?
He doesn't have Wisconsin in the way.
Exactly. He's got Oklahoma. Beat Oklahoma.
Get past Oklahoma, you're going to beat Oklahoma State because they're Oklahoma State. And then maybe a rise up Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor once.
Occasionally. But I mean, Oklahoma's been in every Big 12 title game for the last 7 years, I think.
I mean, literally for a Texas coach, it's beat Oklahoma and then get past Iowa State.
That's the path.
That's it.
You're not asking for much. Mm-mm. And you may have to beat Oklahoma twice, to be fair. You may have to beat them twice.
Yeah, but
because of the way that it's set up.
You should be able to do that.
Absolutely. And I think that's what gets a lot of Texas fans down here angry, is because Oklahoma, if you look at their roster, it's filled with Texas guys.
Littered with Texas.
Just because Dallas is literally halfway between Norman and Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is not like Jacksonville.
But they go into San Antonio and poach too. They come into Austin and poach. I watch it. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. So I think that gets under the skin here. But Michigan's in trouble, man. Like, not just now, but for the long term. There's a cultural problem there that they got to figure out. And speaking of things that you got to figure out, the hell, Penn State. You're now 0-4. After looking pretty decent against Indiana week 1, and you lost the game in a double OT. Okay, forgivable. Indiana's pretty freaking good. Give you that. But since then, you haven't put a competent team on the field.
And oh, by the way, the only reason why I didn't make this my upset pick was because it was only 2.5 points. I took Nebraska in the cash, and walked away with some corny money. But no, in the weirdest part is I remember watching the Cotton Bowl last year, Penn State and Memphis, and remarking to myself about the skill positions and the line. That the offensive line that Penn State had, and how impressive they were, and how they were able to move people. It was the first time I had really watched Penn State all year, just because that's how dumb luck worked. But after I watched most of the Penn State Nebraska game just because it was funny and it was probably the only thing on. Their lines are just deplorable.
Yeah.
They couldn't get any pressure on Nebraska. They couldn't force the turnovers that we're used to seeing with Penn State. I was almost slack-jawed with what I was seeing from Penn State, and I had watched the Indiana game. I had watched some of their other games, and this one I really paid attention to because they should dominate this game. This is not – they have earned this 0-4. They have done everything they can to earn this 0-4.
Well, and you start looking at the rest – and they got a game or two that eases up. They still get to play Rutgers. And, they get a shot to at least get something down there. But the rest of their schedule is not that great. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at who they have left, they'll beat Michigan State because Michigan State's bad. Mm-hmm. They're going to lose to Iowa this week.
They will.
They will absolutely – and that game is – in Happy Valley.
It's in Happy Valley, but they're going to lose.
The Michigan game's a complete toss-up. I don't know what the hell to make of that.
I have never seen a game where I've just wanted to throw pillows onto the field and say, go at it, kids.
I have no idea what the hell's going to happen there.
No.
I'll give them a game at Rutgers. I think they can beat Rutgers. I hope. But Rutgers is better than you think.
Not terrible.
And then at Michigan State, which Michigan State, they're pretty bad.
I have never said this live and in person, but this will be two drunk college kids trying to hump a doorknob.
Well, that sounds like that Michigan
game.
State and Penn State fans getting together.
Exactly.
I've been to that game before. That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. Penn State.
I mean,
I hate that Auburn plays them next year instead of this year because I'm just like, of course, next year they're just going to figure out a way to access second game.
Yeah, next year they'll be right and have just the old. You remember those old guys that used to wear the mask on and they looked huge and everything? That'll be their offensive line. Just we're here to kill you. Oh, awesome! Where were you guys last year?
Could have used you then. Yeah. We'll jump over to the ACC real quick. Couple of intriguing games there. One that I quickly want to hit on just for a tip of the cap. Notre Dame coming off a big win against Clemson, able to go on the road, survive an early test from Boston College in the first quarter, and dominate a game.
Yeah, no, the 45-31 score, not as close as that game was.
No. Mm-hmm. And that's impressive to me because good teams, it's not just a matter of can you win the one game? It's can you get that game the next week convincingly that you're supposed to win especially when you get it on the road, right? How are you going to react to that? Most entertaining game of the day happened two most entertaining games of the day. Both happened in the ACC. One, a 1-point victory for Miami, which we had you on the money line there, folks. Got you there. If you followed our parlay last Saturday, you won. Congratulations. Miami 25-24 over Virginia Tech as Tech finds new and creative ways to lose every week.
I'm not sure. We're not at the point of asking how long Brian Fuentes has, but we're getting close to the point where we can ask that question. I know it's still early. I know.
I don't know. Only because how long was Beamer there, and how many years of 5, 6, and 6, 7, and 6 did he have him there?
I mean, that's true. But
what are the expectations at Virginia Tech? Really?
I'm not sure where your expectations are. I don't know where you are as a Tech fan. Are you Michael Vick fan, or are you slow and steady wins the process?
Yeah. Other game in the ACC that was just wild as hell. What's going on, Chapel Hill?
That close. I had a 2-touchdown lead.
59-53. UNC somehow wins over Wake. UNC outscores Wake 20-20 in the fourth quarter.
Uh-huh.
Folks, if you didn't see this game, you missed all kinds of fun. Sam Howell for North Carolina threw for 550 yards and 6 touchdowns. Let's get to the total offense numbers. Oh, wait, sorry. Sam Hartman for Wake Forest threw for 429. Each team had a rusher over 120 yards. Let's get to the full-on team stats, though, because this is where it gets really entertaining. Wake Forest had 606 yards in this game, Drew.
Yep. Yeah, they did.
They were outgained by 136.
That is also correct. That is a true statement.
1,348 yards combined between these two teams over 60 minutes of football.
I can't tell you how upset I was, because this was my upset pick. I took the Deeks. Now, to my credit, though, I did say the line is just big, so I would take Wake in the points, but I'm going to take them here for the money line. But I would take Wake in the points. And if you followed my advice, you walked away with cash.
Yeah.
There. But to know that going into the fourth quarter, I was leading by about 2 touchdowns. And it took a late touchdown for Wake to get me to the cover. But to know that I was that close to calling that one. And I can remember texting you and saying, yeah. And that was, of course, premature because Wake's defense is not good. But no, this was an absolutely fantastic game to watch if you just enjoy insanity. And so much offense.
Only other games I want to talk about from last week, I don't know if you actually saw them, but they were on the West Coast, where both of them were actually part of our parlay that we tweeted out. Colorado straight up over Stanford. Game I called for you. 35-32 as Colorado. They're 2-0, Drew, and they're pretty decent. I don't know if you saw them play any, but they're going to cause headaches in the Big 12 South. Or, sorry, the Pac-12 South.
Pac-12 South. No, I didn't get a chance. I only watched the last little bit of that game, getting ready for Florida and Arkansas, which, that's bad. But I also want to commend you on your Tulsa SMU.
Forgot about that one. Yeah.
That's also a good heads up. My ponies go down.
Tulsa comes up with a late touchdown to win that win. And then the other win that had us sweating because it was the final part of the 3-team parlay that we tweeted out. Oregon, they win by 14 just to cover barely on the 12 points.
Just to take care of daddy.
Just barely. They scored a touchdown with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go to salt the game away. Oregon did not look good at all for 3 quarters of football.
No.
They 3 turnovers in the first half. I think in the first quarter they had 3 turnovers, actually. They looked disjointed, finally figured it out in the fourth quarter, but, man, somebody's going to get them in the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, everybody has a game like this where it just sort of happens and it falls together and you just win if you're a really good team. But normally it's because of A, B, or C. This was a D. They, like you said, they looked disjointed. They looked sort of aloof, almost lost. So I'm interested to see the next couple of games for the Ducks. Maybe not next week, because next week should be next week's UCLA. Okay, never mind. UCLA, Oregon State, California, and Washington. I mean,
There's nothing that they shouldn't win, right?
Talk about some layups.
The UW might be the toughest game there.
No, it absolutely is because Cal looked terrible against UCLA on Sunday morning.
And nationally, a lot of folks may not recognize this, but Oregon and Washington's a sneaky little rivalry.
Yeah.
I know everybody thinks Civil War, Oregon
Sure.
State. Oregon fans will tell you their number one rivals are Washington.
Yeah, no, this is an old school Alabama fan. No, I want to beat Tennessee.
No.
So no, I totally agree with you. Washington, that will be a fun game to watch, but other than that, UCLA would be the next toughest, but they don't have anything for Oregon.
Before we move on to next week, we got to talk about arguably the biggest story in college football this week. It's not one that's fun to talk about. We usually try to keep this very lighthearted on the podcast and just fun for everyone because college football should be fun. But we'd be remiss if we didn't go down to Baton Rouge. The reports that came out from USA Today this week, where Darius Geis is accused of some sexual misconduct with students, female students there, but also now accusations of the program potentially covering and the university helping to cover up and slow down and any investigations, not doing any investigations whatsoever.
Yeah,
it reeks of Baylor.
Yeah,
it reeks a lot of Baylor. And on the human side, first of all, any of those women that were assaulted, seriously, prayers out to all of you.
Yes.
Number one thought is there. Has to be. Mm-hmm. On the football athletic side of things, because you also have to remember the department's already under investigation for Will Wade, too, on the basketball for paying players.
Yep.
LSU may have a day of reckoning coming a lot faster than many of us thought.
Yeah, no, if anything, and again, I echo your comments and your statement just before this. But purely for our purposes, you're absolutely right. This reeks of Baylor, which was slammed hard.
They still haven't recovered.
Yeah, no.
Their football program still has not recovered.
No, even with Matt Rule pulling out the magic that he did, they're still a struggling program. Even with Dave Aranda, who's doing a pretty good job. And I hope he gets the notations that he deserves in his efforts. But earlier this year, I wondered aloud to myself, I wonder if Coach O is on a Gene Chizik type of path where Chizik had Cam Newton, and really that was it. He also had Gus Malzahn, who
had Nick Fairley and Cam Newton, and that was it.
Yeah, and that was basically it on the field. And then he had Gus Malzahn, who he chased off after the next season. While Coach O had Dave Aranda, who I personally think was the best defensive coordinator in the country going into last season, didn't show up in stats per se, but he also didn't have the talent.
Put him above Venables?
I would. I love Dave Aranda's style. Now, don't get me wrong. I still don't know the complete story why Venables isn't a head coach somewhere and why he's never brought up. That always
go hire him, South Carolina.
Yeah, go do it. Oh my gosh. I don't care if it works for you. Just make Clemson weaker. That
would be so fun.
Oh gosh, that would be fun. And then you also lose Joe Brady and Joe Burrow and a host of NFL, Jordan Jefferson, among others, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I wanted to see how it turned out for him this year. And on the field, it doesn't look good, but now it looks even worse. And he's not on the Gene Chizik path. He could be on the Art Briles, that's it for you, bud path.
Oh, wow. It's going to be, from a sports perspective, fascinating to watch and how the dominoes fall there. Obviously, from a human perspective, it's a sad
Absolutely
story.
Heartbreaking.
So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll obviously continue to talk about it because, again, from the athletic department, it goes beyond just football.
Absolutely.
Don't forget about Will Wade and the fact that they're under investigation for paying players on the basketball side too. So,
which there is audio, and actually, if you listen really closely
it's
our
in there.
theme, it's there. That's Will Wade.
Gonna make you a strong ass offer, son.
Strong ass offer, bro.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to this week as there, again, not that many fantastic games this week. A few intriguing wins. There's one really intriguing win with a massive line, despite that it's a top 10 matchup, and a rivalry game this week that kind of caught me out of nowhere. I didn't realize they were playing, but there's a rivalry game this week. Bedlam is coming up. Yeah,
that's right. Saturday night.
Bedlam's, I won't even be watching it. That's the worst part.
That's the terrible part.
Auburn's playing at the same exact time. So, which, by the way, before we go any further,
go for it. Do it.
SEC, we have a bone to pick with you. Like a major bone to pick with you.
You're not even talking. Oh, we're doing this one now. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. It has been well known and stated on this program that our favorite rivalry game is the Egg Bowl.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
The Southeastern Conference, in their infinite freaking wisdom, have decided, one, to not give it a traditional time slot on Thanksgiving night.
That's what we do every Thanksgiving.
Okay. Two, they have slotted it in the same time slot against the freaking Iron Bowl. So now...
Oh, hold on. Let me do this for you. So you think, well, Brad, I mean, come on, man. That's because there are so many other great games that you would want to see instead of the Egg Bowl. Oh, you mean like LSU and Texas A&M?
No.
Or Georgia and South Carolina?
No.
Or Tennessee and Vanderbilt?
No.
Put that Tennessee-Vanderbilt game in that slot and give me the Egg Bowl on ESPN right now.
Give me the Egg Bowl on the SEC Network at night. I don't care.
Don't care.
After the Iron Bowl, it's fine. After the Iron Bowl's fine. I don't care. Just don't put it opposite the Iron Bowl. There's no reason Tennessee and Vandy should have their own time slot opposite the Iron Bowl.
I don't care if it is on SEC Network Plus. I don't care. I don't care if it's on the alternate.
Seriously, SEC. The hell. The hell. What the frickin' hell is wrong with you? Sorry.
No, I'm not. Don't be sorry.
Don't
be sorry for stupidity.
I was talking to our listeners. The 5 that are out there. All right. Now we'll move on to this week.
I guess so.
That's off my chest. Start back first by looking at last week in picks. We both went 4-1, missing different games, but successful week both overall. I still have a 2-game lead overall in the year. Drew's 27-21-1. I am 29-19-1. So if you followed us, you're making money. It looked a little dicey there a couple of weeks ago when we were right around 500. But now we're back up to making money for the year. We both have 2 upset specials, correct? Don't forget, folks, our rules for upset specials, you got to be about a 6-point or more underdog for us to be able to pick you. So we don't just take 2-point dogs or things like that. Okay. You know what? It's the early game. It's big noon. We're just going to start with the biggest ranked game of the week this week.
Okay.
It's our first on the pick'em list as well. Indiana, number 9. Indiana goes on the road, taking on number 3 Ohio State. And I don't recall the last time I saw a top 10 matchup with a 20.5-point spread.
Not a 20.5. I know Auburn, the 94 Auburn-Florida game was a 17-point line. Auburn was number 6 in the country.
Auburn-Bama in 2013, the kick 6 was about a 13-point line, if I remember right. I think that was about 12 or 13.
I think you're about right. It was way too high. Like even I went, if I could, because this is before I realized I could offshore bet. Yeah. Even I went, gosh, if I could get to Vegas or to Pearl or somewhere, somewhere that had a book, I'd make some money because Bama's not beating Auburn by more than 10.
Yeah.
I figured Alabama would win, but that's because I'm an old school Auburn fan. No, this is the largest line I've seen for a top 10 matchup. And again, what else is new 2020? I love Indiana. I really do. I love Tom Allen. I love the way that they play the game. I think that it will be closer than 20.5. I don't see Ohio State winning this one by 3 touchdowns unless Luke Fickell. unless Ryan Day just goes off and wants some style points, which he doesn't really need. He literally roll out the helmets, get the dub, and for the rest of the season, and Ohio State's playing in the playoff. So I will take Ohio State to win the game, but give me Indiana in those points.
I'm with you. That's exactly where my head's at. I think Ohio State wins this by about 10 points, 2 touchdowns. They haven't been overly impressive this year. No. Ohio State hasn't been. Like, they're going to win.
Yeah, but the Penn State game is kind of concerning, but I want to think that they're doing the old school Tuberville thing of playing bad teams close because you're not sure if they're really that bad or if you're that good. So you just kind of roll them out and, kind of the the Auburn LSU mentality of we don't know how good they are, but we're going to play them like they're the best team on the planet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Indiana goes down this week. It very well may be their only loss of the year.
But don't get me wrong. I think Indiana could pull this off. That said.
Yeah, depending on what the money line comes out, it might be worth a $5 shot, right?
Exactly. Especially if it's like plus 200.
Yeah, but it'll be way more. No, at 20.5, it'll be more like plus 400.
Keep talking, and I'll pull it up.
But I'd say plus 200 is typically a 7-point spread.
Yeah, that's true.
So you might get plus 450 here on this game right now at 20.5.
That might be worth it.
Yeah, for a few bucks, that's one of those. I'll take this shot.
Yeah, it's plus 600.
Oh, yeah, that's totally worth the shot.
And
so we're both in agreement there. Looking at Indiana's schedule the rest of the year, though, let's assume they take a loss here to Ohio State.
Okay.
They've got Maryland at home.
Okay. That's a dub.
Then they get the really good game at Wisconsin.
Ooh.
And then they go home for Purdue. So at worst, Indiana's looking at 6-2.
At worst.
At worst.
If I'm Indiana, I run to the bank. And
I think that might get them a Big Six bowl game. This year, that might get them one of the Big Six bowl games.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that one, obviously. But I'll be honest with you. At that 11 a.m. or noon Eastern time slot, the game I'm most interested in is in Conway, South Carolina. It's a battle for first place in the Sun Belt East, man. App State and Coastal Carolina, a combined 13-1 in their records. Coastal's a 5.5-point favorite.
Okay. I have watched App play. Truth be told, I've been to a couple of Appalachian State games. Love the Rock. Love the Mountaineers. Love.
I saw them play once in Troy in a 1AA playoff game.
Wow.
Back in like 2000.
I was about to say
99 or something like that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I have only seen Coastal Carolina play baseball, except for that Arkansas win that they had a couple of years ago. But I got to take the shots. App, App 6-1. This will be a good football game. App doesn't wow me like they have before, and that's to be assumed because that was to be expected. Because Eli Drinkwitz is now at Missouri, the brand new head coach over there on the Rock. But Coastal is just a Mack truck. And I dare you, Brad, to look ahead on Coastal's schedule if you have not done so already.
Give me 2 seconds.
Because let me get you excited for a game in about 2 weeks, maybe next week.
Are they coming to Texas State?
Uh-uh.
Oh, they go to Toronto. Yeah, they do. But that can't go to that game, Drew.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about
Toronto. Oh, the Liberty game. Whoa!
Uh-huh.
Whoa!
Uh-huh.
That should be game day. If they're both undefeated. If they're both undefeated.
Get you excited for December 5th.
If they're both undefeated, game day needs to be in Conway. Oh my
God. It has to be.
I was going to get excited because they're at Texas State next week, and I was going to get to go see them in person. But, that's the same kickoff time as the Iron Bowl, so no.
Exactly. So, no.
That's not going to happen.
No. But you should be getting fired up for 2 weeks from now when they play the Flames.
That's amazing.
Oh.
I'm with you. I take CCU. I've actually watched a lot of Coastal football this year. Probably watched 3 full games of theirs already this season. I love the way they play. I love their option running attack and the creativity that they use in that option attack, moving guys around, creating space with players in motion, and then reversing them back across the field before the snap. They do some different things. It's not like a traditional triple option that you would see from an Army or a Navy or whatever. It's a very modified triple option, and I freaking love to watch it.
Yeah.
So I think they win this game by a couple of scores.
Yeah.
So I'll lay the 5.5 with the shots at home.
I agree.
Start counting down to the big game. That's going
to be fun.
One other game at 11 a.m. / noon Eastern I want to talk about just briefly because it's funny. Florida State's a 5-touchdown underdog at home.
Yeah, they are.
I'm going to repeat that, folks, just in case you didn't hear me right.
Over.
Florida State is a 5-touchdown underdog at home. The same program that won a national title just 7 years ago. I was in the stadium and watched it happen.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Oh!
It's not enough! It's not going to be enough!
Oh!
I think Clemson washes over them like a mighty river
and
imparts them back to the Okeechobee. Oh,
that's going to be bad.
That's going to be real bad.
Speaking of bad, LSU plays Arkansas this week.
Prepare for the loss on the Bayou.
Well, that game is up in the.
They're just going to put them into a canoe on the river. I know Arkansas is a 2-point dog at home, which, but they're going to put them back on the Mississippi River and just have them go straight down to Baton Rouge, just right on down.
All right, so next game in our pick'em is happening in the afternoon, 2:30 to 3:30. Our 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7 Cincinnati, biggest test of the year so far. They go arguably the biggest test of the year. They've had a couple of good games, but
they go to the bounce house
on the road to the bounce house, where they're a 6-point favorite over UCF.
Where's your bounce house, man? And that's what Cincinnati's going to be asking. This is by far, I think, the most underrated program in college football right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've made me a believer. Luke Fickell and the boys have things just clicking. And this screams to me a kind of game that Josh Heupel thinks, yeah, we got a shot. Oh, God, we don't have a shot. I expect them to blow that 6-point line out of the water.
So since they played number 22 Army in the second week of the season and beat them by 14.
Yep.
Okay. They've won every game by 3 touchdowns or more. Cincinnati, and that includes a road win at SMU.
Yeah, and that was a game where I think if things go a little bit differently, SMU really has a shot to win. Don't get me wrong. I still kind of think that, but that said, I can't say that out loud because it was still by 3 touchdowns.
Well, Cincinnati, I'm going with them. Mm-hmm. I think they're running the table, even though they have their last 3 games on the road, and this is the first of that 3-game stretch.
Yeah.
I think the final week of the season at Tulsa is
That's now scary. That is
scary.
Now scary. Because Tulsa has a real good defense.
Yeah, but Cincinnati's got a little saltiness to them too. They had the game put away last week and still went for a fake punt in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they did.
Because why not?
Yeah, because why wouldn't you?
I'm on the record on this show saying I think Cincinnati still has a shot at sneaking into that 4th spot in the playoff. I think that's why they're trying to beat the hell out of teams is to make that statement.
Uh-huh.
And if they get the shot, they're going to beat the hell out of UCF. I think they do.
I think they get that shot.
So I'll take Cincinnati and lay the 6 points in a heartbeat here. Top 20 matchup at the same time in the afternoon window. Scotty goes back on the road for the second straight week. They don't have to go too far, though, just down to Evanston, where they take on undefeated 4-0 Northwestern in a battle for first place in the Big Ten West.
There will not
Line is 7.5.
Yeah. Okay. You're going with the 7.5. Okay. There will not need to be a recount in this one. Scotty will win this one by at least 14. Northwestern's a good football program and a good football team this year. I would not like to see them across the way from me in a bowl game. However, this Wisconsin team is legit. And if you don't believe me, just ask Michigan and just ask Illinois. Sure, that's their only 2 games so far this season, but there was no drop-off after 3 weeks of chilling. Or 2 weeks of chilling, or however long you want to call that. No, I give me the white hats with the red letter on them. I think Wisconsin rolls in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Wisconsin wins. I don't think it's going to be necessarily close. 7.5 seems like a big number for 2 undefeated teams. It's not.
No.
This line, to me, should be averaged out with an Indiana-Ohio State line. If both of these were at 13, I wouldn't blink an eye. I think that's about right. That's about right.
But these 2 numbers make you want to jump on both.
Exactly. A game that I somehow overlooked and didn't put in our pick'em, Drew, but I just saw it and now I want to talk about it.
Okay.
It's at night. It's the same time our game is on, so I don't know how much we're going to actually watch it.
Yeah.
At the same time as Bedlam as well. But Liberty goes on the road and takes on NC State.
Looking to go 3-0 in the ACC are the Flames.
So, first of all, before we go any further, what happened to the ACC rule that your non-conference game had to be a team from inside the state?
No. You're mistaken. You had to play a team inside your state. You had to play that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. So that's why
the game had to be played within the state borders.
That's why Abilene Christian this weekend is playing Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Liberty goes to see Mr. Wolfie.
Yeah.
Wolfpack are 3.5-point favorite. And I think the wrong team favorite here.
You're right. You are correct. I think Liberty gets this win and sets up game day to be. If game day's not in Conway, and if that game is not on primetime television, that is a lost cause.
Preemptively move that to like Friday night TV. Just do it. Preemptively move it to Friday night where there's no competition out there. There's not an NFL game on, and let's go to town.
And let's just play and just enjoy group of 5, group of 6, however many you want to throw in there, football. Yeah. That is just love of the game and 2 teams playing their hearts out to get the win. I'd be all for that. But I think Liberty gets the win over Mr. Wolfie this weekend and goes 3-0 in the ACC this year.
Liberty versus Notre Dame for the ACC title.
Yeah.
All right, final game of the pick'em. It's Bedlam. It's the last game it's the game that we keep talking about as rivalry game. It kind of snuck up on me. I didn't realize it was taking place this week. If you look at the Big 12 standings, this game is really important. Oklahoma State still leads the conference. Let me pull up everything here for my Big 12 just so I can have it right in front of me. Actually, Oklahoma State is tied for the conference lead with Iowa State, both of them with 1 loss.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma is tied with K-State, but remember, K-State has the tiebreaker because they beat Oklahoma straight up.
Again.
So, and then Texas is also in that 4-2 spot, but Texas lost to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Did they lose to Oklahoma? Did they lose to K-State too?
Looking that up.
They have not. I don't think they've played K-State yet.
No, that is the last game of the Horn season.
Okay.
So on December 5th.
This game goes a long way into deciding who's going to be in Dallas.
Correct.
Right now, you got 5 teams with a legitimate case to potentially get to Dallas for 2 slots. If Oklahoma loses, we can probably safely say they're gone. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in I don't even know how long, Oklahoma will not be in the Big 10, our Big 12 championship game. Kind of be fun to watch, personally. I'd like to see that. But
I will check in on it. And I'm sure that ESPN will be doing drop-ins during the game that we'll be watching because of obvious ties. I cringe a little bit when people call this one a rivalry because we make so much fun of Alabama Tennessee not being a rivalry, and this, if you look at the history of this thing, ain't a whole lot of bedlam in the win-loss column.
And ask OU who they want to beat.
Exactly.
It's that game in Dallas every year.
Ask Oklahoma State who they want to beat. It's Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
But for Oklahoma, this is just this is the game that we win.
This feels more like Georgia Tech to me. Because I think if you ask most Georgia fans, they want to beat either Auburn or Florida every year. It's one of those two schools. And for most of it's probably Florida, if we're being dead honest here.
No, you're absolutely correct. Being from Georgia and knowing Georgia people, Auburn is the game. Yeah, that's a feather in our cap. Beating Florida is everything for a Georgia fan, which that didn't happen this year. But for a Georgia Tech fan, there is no other game other than Georgia Tech and Georgia.
Yeah,
it is either on the flats or between the hedges. And when Tech does sneak up and beat Georgia,
it's so funny.
It's one, funny for an outsider. It's two, funny for an outsider that lived in the state of Georgia for most of his childlike years. For a Georgia fan, your world reality crumbles and you want to recount and you just keep fighting and making up things to make up that scoreboard.
Start holding press conferences with hair dye leaking down your cheek and wiping snot on your forehead.
You go to the Four Seasons, but it's a landscaping place. I could go on. But no, for a Georgia fan, it wrecks your whole worldview when you lose to Georgia Tech. Just like Oklahoma State losing to Oklahoma, or beating Oklahoma, would be to a Sooner fan.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think this happens. I've seen nothing from Mike Gundy to say with this team that he can pop up and win one in Norman, although that's if Oklahoma State does sneak up and mess up and win the game, it's normally been in Norman. Stillwater's not been good to the Cowboys in this rivalry.
I'm just telling you, you're laying 7 if you take OU here.
Well, I'm taking OU to win. I'll lay the 7. I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll do that.
I'm going to take the points.
Okay.
And I think OSU wins.
Ooh!
This is not my upset special, but I think they win.
Is this?
I think they win the football game.
Okay.
No, my upset special is a little more out of left field than this one.
Wait till you see exactly. So, do you remember the Polo Grounds?
I do.
And you remember how there was like a good 700 feet
to center field?
Yeah. That's where mine's coming from.
So well, go ahead, because we just finished our picks. So go ahead, and then we'll get to Auburn, Tennessee before we end up the show.
Then in that case, earlier in the show, you mentioned that Jim Harbaugh is pretty much safe, unless he loses by 50 to Ohio State. Unless he just loses a bunch of games. You won't need the 10.5 in Piscataway this weekend. You won't need it.
Like it.
Because the Scarlet Knights are getting that dub this weekend. They will take down Khaki Jesus and Michigan because Michigan's going to roll in there and think, well, we've won more college football games than anybody ever. So all we have to do in the birthplace of college football is roll out the helmets, and we'll get that dub. They'll think it's Princeton. Trust me. They ain't getting that dub against Greg Schiano and the Scarlet Knights this weekend.
I like it. So it's a 10.5-point line there, which I didn't even have on my thing. It wasn't even showing up. So it tells you how much the ESPN thought about that to maybe put the line up there. I'm going to go back to the Big 12.
Okay.
And we talked about teams that were leading the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're about to have a bunch of 2-loss teams because Iowa State goes down at home for the second time this year. K-State rolls into town, keeps their hopes of making a Dallas alive as an 11-point underdog, and beats the Cyclones. That's where I'm going to go
So
with it.
you actually went over my 10.5.
I did.
Woo!
I did.
I thought I was being ballsy doing that.
All right, we'll finish up real quick just because we haven't spoken about it. It is where our hearts lie. So Auburn, Tennessee this week. The last time these two teams played, Drew and I both got really drunk that day after an 11 o'clock kickoff because,
Jarrett Garantano looked like a quarterback.
Literally, it was the only game I've ever seen in my life where I could hear the other coaches' sidelines calling out the plays for the offense for Auburn before the snap based on alignment. That's not a joke. That actually happened 2 years ago. Auburn's a 10-point favorite at home. First game in 3 weeks now after having the last two postponed. Tennessee looks like dog crap. They didn't play last week due to a postponement as well after getting beat at Arkansas. They're coming on a 4-game losing streak. The thing you have to worry about with Auburn is it's a look-ahead game because Bama's next week. You'll go.
I don't foresee Auburn looking ahead.
Just because they haven't played in so long?
Yeah, just because it's been so long and you've had 2 off weeks, basically, what amounts to, since the drubbing of LSU, which, again, I'll remind you, it was a 0-0 game going into the second quarter.
Yeah.
So this is it's why I said I still need to see more from Auburn before I crown them as the offense has figured it out and the defense knows what they're doing. They just played a terrible LSU team that has only beaten South Carolina, who just lost their head coach.
But who beat Auburn?
And I believe Vanderbilt. Think about that. Let it roll around in your head. LSU has only beaten Vanderbilt and South Carolina this year.
Oh, that's bad.
That's real bad. So I'm not going to crown Auburn as any world beaters. I think that this line is a little bit high, actually. But it might not be. I just don't know, which is why I'm staying far, far away from this game. If I were to put Monopoly money on it, I'd put a 5 on Tennessee and the points, just because, again, based on history, Jeremy Pruitt knows Gus Malzahn, and I know that Chad Morris is the play caller. I don't care. I think 2 weeks will help Tennessee. I think it'll help them get refocused. I think canceling the Texas A&M game also helps Tennessee more than it helped Auburn canceling the Mississippi State game, just because Jeremy Pruitt now then could say, we've got 10 days to get ready for Auburn's offense, and that's what I want. So I think Auburn wins this game just because Garantano is just not a very good quarterback. And I think it'll be a Steven Garcia type effect for old school Auburn fans, old school back 2011. And he might lose them the game, but I don't see Auburn running away and hiding with this one per se.
I do.
Okay. And you are more optimistic normally on Auburn than I am.
Yeah, but I also, you mentioned Tennessee had a week off when they weren't supposed to last week.
Yeah.
So did Auburn.
Yeah.
Well, Auburn got 2 straight weeks off. And I know there's folks out there who think, well, you don't want to take too much time off. This year's different because they didn't get a chance to implement an offense in the offseason. And so you kind of got a chance to do a mini spring practice for the last couple of weeks because that Mississippi State game got canceled early in the week.
It was Monday.
Week. It was on Monday.
It was Monday, 9 a.m.
Yeah, so Auburn also has had 2 weeks to plan for Tennessee. But I think more than anything, they've had 2 weeks to get healthy, and they've had 2 weeks to maybe implement some things they weren't able to back in the summer because there really wasn't much lead up before the season. You didn't get spring, right? Yeah. So, and now you're getting the addition, I forget the kid's name, but the tight end's back, who's been injured all year, coming back for Auburn, which should add another receiving threat. Khakis is still one of my favorite guys on the team, but he's not out there catching footballs. He's out there to run people over.
That's up,
what he's doing. And the more we can just direct snap to the 300-pound man that can run, I want to do that because it's fun.
Wild fat.
I think Auburn wins this game by about 17.
Woo! I hope you're right.
I don't think that's necessarily bold. Tennessee's not look good. They lost by 11 to Arkansas 2 weeks ago. And that's after running up a 13-0 lead.
It's actually the first time I want to say in Tennessee football history that they've lost 3 or 4 consecutive games by double digits.
Yeah. So I for me, when I think about this game, I think Auburn, and plus you get a game at home. Bo Nix plays 10 times better at home than he does on the road for whatever reason. He throws consistent passes at home. I don't understand it, but he does.
Jerseys.
I also think he's progressed a little bit with stepping up into the pocket, running forward, trying to escape as opposed to rolling out all the time and trying to escape, which has opened up the run game a lot too. So it's holding some linebackers up, and I just think for whatever reason, Auburn comes away after a couple of weeks off, fresh, but also some wrinkles because there's some things that they had some time to go work on over the course of a few weeks. I like them here before the bloodletting in Tuscaloosa in about 10 days or 9 days or something like that.
Something tells me that even though we've complained about the Egg Bowl, I might be flipping over to that one after a little bit.
Auburn fans, enjoy this week if you can. Yeah. Just enjoy it.
One last stat and number that I'll give to you. Watch the second half of that game and of the Auburn-Tennessee game. Tennessee, since the Georgia game, when they were riding high and 8-game winning streak, and we've got the longest winning streak in college football, since that game kicked off the second half, Tennessee has been outscored 91-7 in the second half. So if Auburn's going to make some hay, look for it in the second half.
Man. One thing I want to throw at you real quick.
Sure.
Just for Tennessee for fun, because you live that way and you work with a bunch of Tennessee people. And so if you want to have some fun, do you know what the record is, the difference is, between Jeremy Pruitt at this point through the same amount of games as Butch Jones?
Aren't they tied?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which let me so while we're cackling at that, can you tell me the difference in games between Kirby Smart and Mark Richt?
I think it's like one game at this point.
2 games.
Oh,
Mark Richt is better than Kirby through, I believe it's 60 or 61 games. Like 2 games. If with Kirby losing to Florida and Alabama this year, it made it 2 games.
Yeah. Oh, so here's the thing that I always go back to with the Tennessee thing, though, right?
Yeah.
If you look at who Butch Jones had to play, specifically in some of the non-conference games.
Oh my gosh, Oklahoma,
they played
Oregon,
a few others in there that were just nasty.
Oh,
that Pruitt hasn't had to deal with,
and still lost to Georgia State and BYU.
Mm-hmm. Did you really upgrade Tennessee?
Tennessee's in that boat with Michigan too. Maybe it's us. Maybe we're doing something wrong.
I feel like Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan are all just kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Traditional powers that just can't get out of their own way.
Oh, it's bad. And we'll leave you on that, folks. Traditional powers who can't get out of their own way. That'll end the show for tonight. We appreciate you guys joining us. We know we dropped a little late this week. We apologize for that, but life gets in the way sometimes. It happens. Hope that you enjoyed it anyway. And we'll make sure that we try to get it on time next week because next week's Thanksgiving. So we'll hopefully drop a Thanksgiving Day episode for you and record the night before. We had planned on something fun this year, and I can let you in on this now. We had planned by request of a friend of ours to do a live play-by-play color commentary because there are those of you who may not know, in a former life, I was a play-by-play broadcaster by trade. Drew knows his football, broadcaster by trade. Yep. He was going to be the color guy, and we were going to live stream the Egg Bowl by live broadcasting. So we obviously couldn't show the game on YouTube, but you could have watched us hit your mute button and watch the game that way.
Up with your DVR.
And do what you got to do. Make sure you're right there with us. We were going to have some fun, throw in some entertainment with it as well.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen now.
No.
Because Iron Bowl's at the same time.
And it's not on Thanksgiving night.
It's not Thanksgiving night, which takes the fun out of it.
We can't get drunk on eggnog during the Egg Bowl.
Well, you drink eggnog. I'm not doing. I don't.
You can.
Anyway, sorry. Hopefully that'll happen next year.
Yes, that is the plan for next year. I have it, I think, figured out. So
yeah.
So
I was gonna wear suit and tie and everything too. I was gonna go full out.
Oh no, I was going to work on my Mike Gottfried impression and really talk slow during the play, so you figured it out.
Well, so that's where you got to break out too, or after the score, your new score, our new score before we go to break.
New score. So here's the situation.
I miss ESPN in the 90s. It was good stuff.
So good.
All right. Don't forget, folks, you can follow us on Twitter at FOT Podcast. Same on Instagram at FOT Podcast. Make sure you search, like, and subscribe on YouTube via Friends of the Program. You can also subscribe and follow on iTunes and Spotify at Friends by searching Friends of the Program. For Drew McCracken, I'm Brad Tillery. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. Take care, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you before Thanksgiving.